There, it's Lara here with your weekly Witchy Wednesday astrology video for the week of August 29th to September 5th, 2018. Thanks for being here. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and I would really love it if you'd subscribe if this is something that resonates with you. And if you want to, if you want to find out more about what I do and about my readings, you can check out the link below in the description box, which will take you over to my website, and you can read up there and reach out from there too. You can email me right from there, or you can get to my Facebook and my Instagram from there as well. All these Witchy Wednesday videos are also posted there. And if you have any questions or feedback, I'd love to hear from you. And of course, if this video resonates, please leave a comment below. Or if you have a question about something, then leave that below and I'd be happy to answer you as well. Okay, and lastly, I would love it if, again, if this resonates with you, if you give the video a thumbs up, if you just hit the little like button below as well. So, we are about to be in a lot of Virgo energy. We are already starting because the sun's in Virgo and it will be there until the 22nd of September. But it's going to be joined by some other planets. And so I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. And at the end of the video here, I'm going to speak to where Virgo falls for each of you, right? What house it falls in. Because even if you're not a Virgo, or a Virgo rising or a Virgo moon, you have Virgo energy in your chart. We all do. We all have Virgo somewhere in our chart, just like we all have Aries and we all have Taurus and we all have Capricorn, right? And every other sign falls somewhere in our chart for us. And so at the end of the video here, I will speak to where Virgo falls for you and where you'll be getting this sort of extra hit of Virgo energy over the next little while, what area of life. So, but right now, just want to say we're coming off this full moon that we had in Pisces last Sunday, and it's starting to wane now and moving to the last quarter, right? Last quarter square. And that full moon was opposite the sun in Virgo, because sun and full moons are always opposites. That, as I mentioned in last week's video, is what I refer to as the axis of practical magic. And if you want to hear more about that, you can go back and listen to last week's video. But what I want to say about that here is that that full moon really encouraged us to integrate all that we experienced over the summer, which was a lot, especially on an internal level. It was a summer of many, many retrogrades. An unusually large number of planets were retrograde, right? Meaning appearing to be moving backwards in the sky. And I've spoken to this in previous videos, so I'm not going to belabor it here, but just to say that there was a lot going on under the surface in particular for us. And we may not even be fully or consciously aware of what all of that was. And so, I've heard so many people say, like, whoa, what just happened? Summer's over. Like, I barely blinked and it was gone, right? And it was just so busy and action packed that we didn't have a lot of time to consciously process everything that was going on. And so this Virgo full moon and this gradual moving forward of the planets will give us an opportunity to kind of integrate that and to realize what those lessons were for us, right? So summer brought about this need to realize where we're putting our energy and if that's working for us, right? And does that need adjusting? Are we putting our energy in the right places? And only we can know that for each of us. But it's a time to kind of think about that for sure. And there may have been a lot of re-strategizing going on over the summer. And again, maybe not even consciously. Maybe now you're just waking up to the fact that whatever transpired over summer made you realize that you need to think about things differently and to move forward differently. Um, you know, as we move throughout the remainder of 2018 and into the very early part, like the first week of 2019, the planets that are still retrograde are going to start moving forward. So we had Mercury move forward, we had Mars move forward on Monday, which we're still in, that phase of Mars is still waking up kind of. So it may not be a complete full steam ahead, right, for us just yet. And then Saturn is going to join next week, which I'll speak to in next week's video. And then, we will have the other planets follow suit eventually. And so there's this gradual, okay, one step forward, okay, next step forward, but forward momentum nonetheless. And, the Mars moving direct energy may have us feeling like, okay, we can finally move forward, particularly in those areas that have to do with Capricorn and Aquarius, because that's where Mars was. My cat is trying to help me back here, but he's not all that helpful. So I'm just going to pause the video for a quick second and be right back. Okay, sorry about that. So he was like chewing on a paper bag or something back there. So I was speaking to Mars moving direct in Capricorn and Aquarius, right? So Mars is in Capricorn right now and will be until September 10th, and then move into Aquarius and continue to move forward there. And so where we have been feeling a sense of frustration and stall, particularly in terms of things like our career, our life path, our reputation, our ambition, our friendships or groups that we're associated with, and our vision for the future in general, that those areas will start to, move forward for us finally. But like I said, have a little patience, because it won't necessarily just happen all whoosh at once kind of thing. Mars is still, he's waking up and stretching and starting to take some steps forward. So, I think that I'm going to spend the remainder of the time here speaking to the Virgo energy that I was talking to you about off the top. And just before I do that, I want to mention to you where the moon is, because I usually do that in every video. And right now we have the moon in Aries. And when the moon is in Aries, there can be, we can have a tendency to sort of have more sort of an emotional, like aggressive emotional reactions to things, right? Like, and we can be more driven. We can have more drive to sort of get things done and take action as well. And so that's the moon in Aries. That's very, very, putting it very simply. But then the moon is moving into Taurus on Thursday, and Gemini on Sunday, and then finally Cancer on Tuesday. And then in the next witchy Wednesday, I'll tell you where the moon is at then. But again, I like to tell you this because it's really helpful to take note of the cycles of the moon, because we're really impacted by them, and we can notice our energy shifting in accordance with the cycles of the moon. I'm actually reading a really great book right now on the moon by an astrologer, well-known astrologer named Stephen Forrest, astronomer and astrologer. I can't remember the title off the top of my head, and I don't have the book here, it's downstairs, but it's really fascinating, and I'm really, really learning a lot from that. It's eye-opening how much the moon influences us. So I was speaking to all this Virgo, right, that's happening, and that even if we're not a Virgo sun or Virgo moon or Virgo rising, we have Virgo in our charts somewhere, and all of us do. And so the energy that's happening in Virgo will be felt in particularly in a certain area of life for us, right, wherever Virgo sits in our chart. And so what's happening along with the sun being there until September 22nd is we have Mercury that's moving into Virgo as well on September 5th, which will stay until September 21st. And Mercury's comfortable in Virgo because Mercury rules Virgo, also rules Gemini. But it's at home there. And so Mercury is the messenger god, right? The planet that rules our communications and those messages that go back and forth. In this day and age, things like our text messages, our emails, our phone calls, if people still make those, right? But even online communications and online conversations and or just the day-to-day information that gets exchanged back and forth, right? And also our style of communicating as well. So with Mercury and Virgo, our thinking can become a lot more detail oriented. Virgo energy is very, very detail oriented. A very good researcher, right? So looking at all the data and weeding through all of that, collecting information, and being very discerning as well, right? Virgo energy notices all the details and the flaws and likes to fix those or point them out for the betterment, right? Virgo can have the reputation sometimes of being overly critical or analytical, but that's really, Virgo can be quite a misunderstood sign. That's done because they're trying to make things better for everybody, right? And who doesn't need improvement? But when Virgo gets stressed out, there can be a real focus on, being overly critical, like overly critical to the self. And that's the thing a lot of people maybe not even realize about Virgos, but Virgos can be much more critical towards themselves than they are towards others. And because they kind of expect perfection, right? Because they notice when things are not just so and just right. So just be mindful, of that tendency, particularly if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed or stressed out. There can be some mental anxiety and worry. And really focusing, like nitpicking almost, right? But Virgo energy is also very, it wants to purify things. So our thinking right now with Mercury in Virgo, or when Mercury moves into Virgo, can be much more, as I said, like detail oriented, focusing on the small details, collecting research, that kind of thing, and perhaps more clear in some ways as well, or at least more. More aware of all the little, bits and pieces kind of thing that need to be considered. And along with Mercury and the Sun, we will have a new moon in Virgo on, I think it's September 9th. I don't have it written down, but I will address that in next week's video. And so there will be that as well. And one more thing that's happening in Virgo is that the asteroid Pallas Athena is also moving into Virgo, and that's happening on the day before Mercury does, on September 4th, and Pallas Athena will be there till November 5th. I'm beginning to get more curious and interested in the asteroids in astrology and what they represent in our chart and how they present in our chart and in our lives, right? And so the asteroid Pallas Athena is a major asteroid named after the Greek goddess of wisdom and craft and poetry and war, because she's associated with being a change agent and with being a problem solver, very good at problem solving, very good at strategizing. It's that area in our chart where our creative genius sits, that we may not even be consciously aware of it until we perhaps have a light shone on it, right? It's Pallas Athena is very good at recognizing patterns and connecting the dots between things. It's a perfect blend of intuition and intellect, right? And that blend is like the optimal problem solver. That's the way we want to solve problems, right? To the best end. And so Pallas Athena, this asteroid, is moving into Virgo as well. So there's going to be all this energy in Virgo over the next while. And as I mentioned, we all have Virgo somewhere in our charts. But before I speak to each of the signs, I just want to show you the chart. This chart was drawn up for today. Here we have the sun in Virgo, and we have Pallas Athena. That's that yellow glyph that looks like a little stick person with a diamond head. And then we have Mercury, both in Leo right now, but shifting into Virgo shortly, right? And then the moon up here will move through these signs because the moon moves quickly, and will join the sun for the next new moon, right? And also next week, we will have Saturn moving direct. So following Mars, which just moved direct, right, on Monday, and Mercury that already moved direct. And so Saturn's going to be moving direct too. And you can see here, we've also got Pluto, right? This is all in Capricorn up here. And I mentioned to you right at the beginning of the year that there will be a lot of focus on Capricorn energy this year. So the area of our chart that contains Capricorn is a real area. It's an area of life that's going through a lot of change and transformation right now, right? And so if you don't know where, this is kind of an aside, I'm sidestepping Virgo for just a second, but if you don't know where Capricorn is in your chart yet, it would be probably enlightening for you to find that out. And perhaps validating in some way as well. And so again, if you have a personal reading with me, I always give you your chart and I point these things out. Or if you have a chart, if you've had a reading from somebody else, or you know how to do your own chart, but just take note of where Capricorn is, what area of life that is for you. And you'll notice that there has been this theme over the course of the year of change and transformation, and perhaps a bit of stuckness, obstacles, hard work, different things like that going on. All right, so getting back to this Virgo energy that's happening for all of us in some area of life, right? So in the chart, Virgo is one of the signs, and we all have all 12 signs, the energy of all 12 signs in our chart. The thing is that depending on your birth details, certain areas of your chart are focused on more, right? Because you may have, even if you have no planets in Virgo, you still have Virgo in your chart. But if you are somebody who has a whole bunch of planets in Virgo, then when all this energy is shifting into Virgo, you will probably feel that particularly, right? More than somebody who doesn't necessarily have any planets in Virgo. But we all have Virgo energy in our chart. And so Virgo sits in a particular house in each of our charts. And so when I'm talking about each of the signs here, first off, I'm focusing mostly on the rising sign, because when we do, you've heard me say before, when we do these general readings, that is the most accurate way to approach things. And so really listen for your rising sign first and foremost here. But also then you can listen for your sun sign and your moon sign, and that will give you added layers of information, right? So, but the Virgo energy I've been talking about in relation to Sun in Virgo, Mercury moving into Virgo, Pallas Athena moving into Virgo, right? That energy is going to be concentrated in one area of life for us over the next month or so. And so I'm going to start here with Virgo. Just keeping an eye on the time, because this is my third take. This has happened to me like almost all summer. I don't know why, but the camera is just wonky, and so it keeps cutting off, and I have to retake. But so I'm just, if you see me looking down here, I'm just keeping an eye on the time. I'm going to start with Virgo because obviously this is all about Virgo, right? So this is really impacting you a lot. This you're getting the sun in your sign, you're also getting Mercury, which is your ruling planet, and this energy of Pallas Athena as well. And then you're going to have a new moon in your sign as well, which, it will be a sort of a new beginning. And so for Virgo rising, specifically, it's in your first house, right? But if you're a Virgo sun or a Virgo moon, this also pertains, this energy. So the first house is about the self. It's the house of the self. It's the house of our physical being, and how we present out into the world, right? And so you may have this, maybe paying a lot of attention to that right now, and just basically feeling this perhaps need to get your life in order, whether that be your physical health, and you're being more discerning about that, and maybe doing something like a juice cleanse. I don't know, I'm just giving examples. Or perhaps it's just this need to, like, get your life organized, right? Get things organized, and perhaps purge and purify, and really focus on the details, right? As far as just your yourself, largely, right? Whatever that encompasses. So Virgo, it's big time for you right now. And it's kind of exciting. I'm a Virgo rising, right? And so I'm really feeling this energy myself. I'm really having this urge to purge going on, and to change, routines, and to focus a little bit more on, getting back on track with, not being so loosey goosey with what I eat and drink, like that's been happening over the summer, and also just, wanting to get my house, my space organized so that I can think more clearly, and kids going back to school, that kind of thing. So it's a good time for that. So that's for Virgo, and Libra rising, and Libra sun, and Libra moon as well. Virgo sits in the second house of your chart. So this is where you're feeling this hit of Virgo energy. And the second house has to do with what you value, and your self-worth, and your resources, including money, but not only money. The resources, your skills and talents that you have, that you use to sustain yourself, and to make, stability, a stable place for yourself, kind of thing, in the world. And so you may have a lot of Virgo type focus in that area of your chart right now, right? That being discerning, that need to get organized. Perhaps you wanting to get, your finances in order, or you're looking at the fact that perhaps you haven't really been valuing yourself, or, um, thinking about what do you value in this world and in this life. Maybe you need to give some thought to that, or maybe there's a purification process going on in some way for you there. Moving on to Scorpio, this is happening in your third house. So Virgo sits in the third house for you, Scorpio rising, Scorpio sun, Scorpio moon as well. But Virgo energy in the third house is about our daily communications, right? And our style of communicating, and those back and forth sort of messages, emails and text messages, and conversations. It's about how we get our message across as well. So it has to do with things like writing as well, and conversations, or just relationships with, like, siblings and cousins and neighbors in our community. So there may be a focus for you on, perhaps, maybe, I'm just going to give an example here. Like, maybe you're working on a writing project and you're researching like mad. So all this Virgo energy is going to help you with that. Or perhaps there's just a lot of communication, detailed communication going back and forth. Perhaps there's, this need for purifying in that area. Like, you're cleaning out inbox, perhaps. That's just a very simple example of how this could play out for you. So that is Scorpio. And for Sagittarius rising, Sagittarius sun, Sagittarius moon, this is happening in your fourth house. So you're getting this hit of Virgo energy in your fourth house of home and family and roots and ancestry and even place of living, right? And the past also. The fourth house deals with the past. And so, and nurturing. And so perhaps, just as an example, you're having this urge to get organized in your physical space, like your house, or there's a lot of focus going on in that area. Maybe you're looking for a new property and there's a lot of research going on as far as that's concerned, right? Or a lot of back and forth with real estate agents, perhaps, or even there's a real focus on purifying in the family in some way. Maybe the whole darn family's doing a juice cleanse. I don't know. This is I'm just throwing these ideas out there, but or maybe you're really getting this sense that you need to be more discerning in that area of life. And so that's where that's happening for you. That's where this Virgo energy is hitting for you, Sag, in your fourth. And moving on to Capricorn, Virgo sits in the fifth house of your chart. So the fifth house has to do with those things like our creative pursuits, our creative outlets, our creative self-expression, creative projects. It has to do with the pleasurable things in life. It has to do with fun. It has to do with children. And so if you are, if you have children of your own, obviously, but also children that you are associated with or work with. So if you're a teacher or an educational assistant or a youth counselor, if you work with children or have an association with children, that's this house here. And so, and those other things I mentioned, right? Creative self-expression, as well. And so there could be, this very sort of discerning, detail-oriented focus in that area of life, and a need to perhaps purify that area or clean it up a little bit, right? That area of life. It could literally be something like, you're cleaning up your art space. Or it could be that you're a teacher going back to school. And so there's a lot of this attention to detail, in terms of your classroom and curriculum and scheduling and all of that kind of thing. If you're a parent, kids are going back to school, right? A lot of same kind of energy there, detail oriented. Or you could be researching a new creative project or something, a project that you're working on. Those are just some ideas. So Cap, that's for you. And moving on to Aquarius. Aquarius, this is happening in your sixth house. So Virgo sits in the sixth house for you, and that's the house that Virgo's at home in. And so this is about your daily routines, your daily tasks that you do, right? At home and at work. This was everyday things, and it has to do with also like our routines surrounding health and wellness. Also has to do with pets. And so you can have this Virgo type energy in that area of your chart over the next while, which will really allow you to focus on the details there and to clean things up in that area of life, and to really get a handle, get perhaps your daily schedule or daily routines more streamlined, more organized, more proficient. And or perhaps you're doing, I don't know, some research on health and wellness routines, and you're undertaking something in that area, and this Virgo discerning energy will help you with that, right? So or maybe maybe you're researching dog breeds because you're going to buy a new dog, and so there's a lot of research going on there. Again, these are just some very simple examples I'm trying to give you so that you can have an idea of how this may impact you. All right, Pisces, this is happening in your seventh house. So Virgo sits in the seventh house for you, Pisces rising. And this is about your relationships, your one-on-one relationships specifically. And so any kind of one-on-one close relationship that you have, right? And so there can be this need for focusing on the details there, for perhaps purifying that area of life in some way, shape, or form. Maybe a lot of communication going on there, a lot of back and forth going on, a lot of you know, hopefully not, but just to give you an idea of sort of how this could play out at the lower octave is like in any of these areas, that anxiousness or worry, right? When, as I mentioned to you, Virgo energy can have that tendency, particularly when it's really stressed. So hopefully that's not the case. But more likely just this need to be more discerning in that area of life, to purify, to focus on the details there, and kind of clean that area of life up when it comes to your one-on-one relationships. Aries, this is in your 8th house. So Virgo sits in the 8th house for you. And so this is like the resources that we share with others. And where we're vulnerable with others. And so when we're talking about sharing resources like money, for example, right, that can be vulnerable. And so this also has to do with, endings and beginnings, transformation, and things that are sort of hidden in our deep psyche, right? And so this Virgo energy is focused there on a very basic level. Perhaps it's just that, you need to sit down with your accountant, or you're going to sit down with your partner who you share resources with, and clean things up in that area of life, right? Take a look at the fine details and of where things need to be organized more or better in that area for you. So, or looking at maybe insurance policies, potentially. Those are just, some normal everyday things that may happen under this influence. All right. Taurus, this is happening in your 9th house. So that's where Virgo sits for you. And this has to do with your philosophy and your beliefs, your worldview. The 9th house is associated with learning and teaching, right? Higher education. And so perhaps there's a focus on maybe you're starting university or college, or even high school. My son is starting high school this year. And so there can be like this focus on all the details, right? That you classes and schedules and all, the all you need to know to begin that process. And it could be about learning things that may shift your perspective, but really like doing a lot of research, right? Or feeling the need to kind of organize that area of your life in some way, shape, or form. Also, the 9th house can have to do with association with like other cultures, or long distance travel could fall in that area too. And so there may be some, like a lot of Virgo type energy in that area of your chart for Taurus. Gemini, this is happening in your 10th house. And so this has to do with your highest ambitions and aspirations. It's the house of career, and it's a public house. It's about your reputation and what you're striving for, right? On that level of highest ambitions, a lot of it has to do with your career, and so there may be a Virgo type focus in that area of your chart, right? A need to really clean things up, to purge, to pay attention to the details, to do some research. Maybe you're researching new careers or a career change. Maybe you are vying for a new job, and you're cleaning up your resume, putting a lot of focus on that. For example, maybe you're running for public office. There's a lot of focus, mental energy and discernment going on in that, in that way. So those are, again, just some examples. 2 more to go. So Cancer, this is happening in your 11th house. Virgo sits in the 11th house for you. And so this is about your vision for the future. It's also about your friendships, like your groups of friendships, right? Group friendships and associations and organizations and clubs and that kind of thing. And so like groups you belong to, and humanitarian causes as well falls into this category. And so there can be a Virgo type focus in that area of life for you over the next while. And you may be looking at, I don't know, maybe you're about to start facilitating a new kind of group or something like that. And so there's a lot of work and focus and energy and discernment, attention to detail going on as far as that's concerned. That's just one example. And lastly, Leo, this is happening in your 12th house. And so Virgo energy in the 12th house could be a real focus on this need for maybe purifying or purging some self-sabotaging behaviors would be one thing, definitely. It can have to do with, on a daily, like on a sort of a everyday level, researching, maybe you have an aging parent. This is just gonna, one example, and you're researching long-term care homes. Maybe you are focusing a lot of attention on your spirituality right now and your connection to something greater than yourself. And you feel like there needs to be some, perhaps discernment there, or a cleanup in that area of life, right? But perhaps, as I said off the top, like any kind of sort of self-undoing or self-sabotaging behaviors that need the fine eye of Virgo on them right now, right? To really clean them up and to get more healthy potentially as well in that area. And so that is all 12 signs with the Virgo energy that is going to be playing out for us over the next month or so. And I hope you found that a little bit helpful. And come back next week for sure. And I'm going to talk about the new moon in Virgo. And I'm going to talk about Saturn moving direct and anything else that's important to share with you. So thanks for being here. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and reach out with any questions and comments. And I'd love to hear from you. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.